Well, as I pull away, I start to cry like I've never cried before in my entire life. I don't know if you've ever cried so hard that you feel like you're cleansing your soul. This was a soul cleansing cry. Like I have to pull my car over, put it in park. I put my face in my hands and I sob. And for the first time in my life, Frank, I feel like in that moment, I felt like I mattered. I loved who I was. I made a difference in this person's life that she'll never forget, I'm thinking, right? And it lit my soul on fire.
Welcome to the Know Your Ship podcast, presented by eHub. I'm your host, Frank Dolce. Welcome back to the Know Your Ship podcast. Sitting next to me is the one and only Todd Sylvester. You know what? I've done a lot of research and a lot of study. By the way, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy.
No, thanks for having me. I'm
I appreciate
excited
it.
to be on.
And so I have so many questions and there's so many things to talk about. I don't even know if we're going to get through all of it today. So I might have to get you to commit to a second or a third.
Sure.
Just right from the start.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Sylvester's such a great name, but you don't hear Sylvester that often. Have you known anyone whose first name is Sylvester?
I haven't. No. I believe it or not.
I know. I knew one.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a great name. Where does it come from? What's your family history?
Boy, you're going to really test me there. I think that comes from parts in Germany, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and Sylvester Stallone, right?
Yeah.
There you got that. But yeah, I it was funny when I was younger, I'd always get teased because my last name was Sylvester. And that was back when there was Sylvester the Putty Tat.
That's the only other one I knew. Was that that one? Yeah.
So kids in elementary would tease me, I taught Putty Tat, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I love my name, and but growing up, I got a little teased about it, but it was all in fun, but yeah, I love the name.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you said that about getting teased as a youngster, because I think that's where this whole story of yours begins.
Yeah.
And maybe this lack of belief in yourself. If I'm understanding it correctly, please correct me.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong about any of that. But give us a brief overview of what you're doing today, and then we'll start talking about how you got here. Perfect.
So I'm a counselor at Wasatch Recovery. I've been there for almost 12 years. And then I have my own private coaching business that I've been doing for 30 plus years. So I've been doing this a long time. I do a podcast as well, as you well know.
A very good podcast.
Thank you.
In the top 150 in mental health. Yeah. It's an amazing podcast.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
No, I feel very fortunate there. And then, I do speaking events and little workshops. I did one today for you guys here at eHub, which was great. Thank you for having me for that. But yeah, I've been doing this now for a long, long time. And I just love helping people who are struggling, not just with addiction, but it can be anxiety, depression, lack of self-worth, lack of purpose. I work with a lot of younger kids who they have no clue what they want in life. And they're just they're doing drugs and they're blowing up their life because they just don't really know what they really want. So I get to see a wide range of clients, anywhere from a fifth grader all the way up to like a 60, 70-year-old who all have different issues and different problems. And so I have a wide range of people that I see, which makes it kind of fun and challenging at the same time.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm not sure that you as a kid, you thought about, well, I want to be, an inspirational speaker, or I want to be a counselor, or I want to help people who have gone through addictive personality traits and to help them overcome that.
Right.
So you had some events leading up to this in your life. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, it's funny you say that because I used to fake sick if I had to give a presentation in school because I was so scared to do it. I'd rather take the zero. And so I would just fake sick, take the zero, and I would avoid speaking in public by any stretch I could.
It's the number one anxiety among people.
Yeah.
It's like public speaking, moving.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember all of
Death,
them, but
taxes, flying.
yes,
Yeah.
all of that. But,
All that.
but public speaking is number one. So
And now I do it
you're
for
not
a
alone.
living. And
Yeah.
it's funny because even my family to this day still is like, man, I can't believe this is what you do, because they knew how I was younger. But yeah, so I grew up in a loving home. I knew I had a very loving mom and dad, but we struggled. We had a dysfunctional family in the sense of we didn't talk about, drugs or alcohol or sex or anything like that. And my mom got caught up in an opiate addiction. My dad was a drinker, but he was able to control it. But I grew up around this lifestyle, and I didn't think anything of it. It's just like, this is what people do.
Mm-hmm.
And at a very young age, I took my first sip of alcohol. I was 11 to be exact, and I fell in love with the rush of it. I didn't get drunk at 11, but I was like, okay, this is wrong, but I like it, and I'm going to keep sneaking it from now on.
Really?
And it kind of just would go. Both my parents worked, and my dad had a wet bar in the basement, so me and my little brother had free reign to the bar. And so I just started slowly doing that. And then by the age of 13, I got introduced to marijuana, fell in love with that. And that opened the door to everything else. And that's really what started me down the path of destruction.
Let me ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
Because I had access to alcohol, or like my family all drank socially.
Right.
We didn't have any addiction issues in my family or extended family that I knew of. I mean, we had the crazy uncle for sure.
Right.
Everyone has the crazy uncle, but I had access to all of that as well. And I can remember as a young kid, we would do family parties and gatherings, and afterward, the men would sit around and drink coffee and have after dinner drinks, and the women would do the same, essentially in two separate groups. But
right.
But I had access to all of that, so I was getting sips of this and sips of that, and for some reason, although I like the taste of alcohol, to me is very appealing. Yeah. It just never hooked.
Never grabbed.
So I'm just curious, from your perspective now, is it circumstance? Is it, do you think it's a gene? What leads to that? Someone who has access and fortunate maybe not to go down that path, and someone who has access and does go down that path.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I don't know if I have the exact, correct response to that, but it was really, for me, it was more the environment. I just grew up in it. My mom was an addict. Her dad, my grandpa, was an alcoholic. And it's almost like I was a product of the environment.
Sure.
I know at one time they thought there was an addictive gene. They don't know if that's even accurate at this point. I know there's a bunch of studies done there. So I'm not to say I'm an expert in the studies, but for me, it was more of, it's just what I grew up in. It was the environment. And for whatever reason, I realized at a young age, I had this all or nothing mentality. Mm-hmm. And when I tasted it, I'm like, I'm all in. Whereas my brother, kind of like you, was like, I don't mind drinking it. But it didn't overtake his life like it did for me, And so it's funny how it can just hit someone differently.
Yeah. Okay. So this started early. In 13, you're messing around with marijuana, and how bad did it get? How deep did you go? And how did you finally figure out that wasn't the path?
Sure. So it was a gradual thing, but again, all or nothing mentality. I fell in love with people thinking I was this crazy partier. To be quite honest with you, it was a way that I fit in. And so I fed off of that. So I wanted to be the craziest one at the party. I'm beer bonging a fifth, or I'm snorting 3 lines in front of everybody, and just whatever, I'm paying someone $1 a hit off a marijuana pipe just so I can get 6 or 7 hits, paying them $1 at a time. And everyone's like, what are you doing? Cause I'm cutting the line kind of thing. It might sound weird, but that's what goes on in a party, but it was more of just me trying to be accepted by my friends. And just when I would hear them, man, you were the craziest dude last night at that party, it would feed my ego. So it was a lot of that.
It was like the positive feedback response. Absolutely. Right there.
And I wore it as a badge of honor. My parents would go out of town. I'd throw a kegger at my house. I would invite the entire class. I mean, I would pass out flyers for parties, and it was, and again, I wore it as a badge of honor. I was the party guy. I had the party house. And I thought, well, this is how people like me. And so it just got gradually worse. And by the time, I'm in, mid high school, I'm a mess at this point. I'm a mess, mentally, spiritually, physically, just a mess.
Are you getting through high school?
Getting through. I mean, high school back when I was in the 80s, to be quite honest, was pretty easy. You just show up, you're going to pass the class,
Yeah.
to be honest. And then where things really went off the rails was my senior year, when I really noticed this voice in my head that was telling me, you're pathetic, you're no good, you're a loser, you're never going to make it. I would play a couple really good basketball games and a couple really bad games. And I was team captain with 2 other guys that year. And we had taken first my sophomore year, second my junior, and we ended up taking first again my senior year. So I played with some amazing players and had colleges looking at me and that kind of thing. But my senior year is when the rails kind of, went the wrong direction. And I really struggled to the point where I was depressed. I was even suicidal and just felt like the biggest, I don't know, just a loser. I just hated who I was. I had so much shame. And then I earn a basketball scholarship, college scholarship. I get a full ride and I blow it because I'm getting high. And when that happened, that's when I went down this very deep, dark depression, which turned into my behavior being very destructive. I would punch holes in the wall. I would pick fights with people. I'm not a fighter,
You're a lover.
Picking fights.
You're a
Yeah,
lover.
exactly. But that just, it became this complete shame-based behavior where, shame is the killer. Shame is I'm a bad person and it's just who I am. I'm just bad. And when you believe that, that's worse than the drinking or the drugs, because if you're stuck in that mindset, you don't even care at this point.
Is that the first time you recognized that you had this negative self-talk? Was kind of in senior?
I mean, I knew I had it
college?
when I was younger. I mean, all of us do. We all struggle with our narrative, but it was senior year when I really noticed it. And then on to college, it just got worse. And then when I lose the scholarship, I mean, it was like, I'm going to party and drink and do drugs. And if I die, I don't care. And then I got to a point where I tried out at several other colleges and then got cut from all of those. And that's when reality slaps me in the face and you're no longer playing basketball. It's done. And that realization was devastating. And that's when I decided I was going to end my life. I was done.
Oh,
yep.
Where before we get to that,
sure.
Where's your family along this path?
So again, my family's struggling too. My mom's struggling with what she's dealing with. My dad, they knew I was drinking. They had no idea of the drugs I was involved with. So I did a good job of hiding that, I guess. But I mean, senior year, I get a 5 on the ACT. I shaved
5?
5.
A 5 out of
36.
Yeah.
I think you get 3 points for signing your name. I shaved my head and pierced my ear all in 1 week. And it was the first time I saw my dad cry. Never saw my dad cry until that day where he sat me down and was like, I don't know what's going on with you. And again, I was a mess. And it was tough to watch him cry, but I wasn't ready to do any changing at that point.
Well, that for a lot of people, that could be a super low point. And maybe that is a catalyst to some change, but it didn't. It affected you clearly.
Definitely affected me, but
you weren't ready yet.
Wasn't ready.
Did you have any? So you got this positive feedback when you were the crazy party guy. Was there anyone along the way that pulled you aside and said, "What are you doing?
No.
You're acting like an idiot"?
No, I wish I could say yes, but no. And think about it. Kids are probably afraid to say anything. Maybe not so much now, but back then, I swear it felt like this is just what everyone does. We party.
Yeah.
I mean, our theme my senior year was ripped in 86.
Is that what you put in your yearbook?
Well, it was like a banner that we were flying at the basketball games. It was nuts. And
oh my gosh.
But it was just the mentality. And again, I just fed off of it. Again, it was just this ego-based, shame-based kind of thing. And so, no one pulled me aside. I mean, my mom was worried about me, but at the same time, she's struggling.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know what to do because she's struggling herself. And so there was a lot of weird dynamics going on, but no one pulled me aside and said, dude, you need some help. And at least at that time.
Okay, let me ask you this. If someone had pulled you aside, how would you have reacted?
I probably wouldn't have done anything, to be honest.
And how would you view it
I
today?
I can't say that for sure.
Yeah.
How do I view it today? Because one of the biggest questions I get from parents, how do I get my son or daughter who needs help? How do I convince them to get help? And they're looking for this magic answer, and I don't have one. And I'll just say, don't stop asking them and helping them and pushing them in that direction. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to them wanting it.
Sure.
And I know that's hard because I wish there was a magic answer, because I could have had 100 people talk to me and I probably just went, okay, thanks for talking to me. And then I would have just kept going. It's almost like the old saying, you got to hit rock bottom.
Yes.
Not always, but for me, rock bottom was, losing my scholarship and wanting to end my life. That's when I was like, all my friends at this point are getting married. They've got their 4-year college degree. Some of them are still playing sports in college. And I'm just like, I am the biggest freaking loser. And so anyway, that was obviously a very tough time in my life at that time.
Yeah, I can't imagine how dark
Yeah.
and depressing that is. And I know a lot of people who are listening have either experienced that or know somebody who is going through something like that. So one more question. I want to talk to you about this, where you got to the point of, not wanting to be around anymore. But so do you have advice for anybody who is watching someone go through that? Is it an obligation for us to say, hey, pull your head out. You're going down the wrong path. And what are resources that people can provide?
Well, first of all, how I look at it now is, if I have a friend struggling, I'm gonna confront them, and they may hate me. They may be mad that I confronted them. They may not listen to me, but I'm gonna do my part. And so I would say to anyone listening to this, if you have a friend or a family member who's struggling, talk to them, communicate. Again, they may not do anything, but if you don't say anything, then they're going to stay in the same spot. And you could, I love James Allen. I'm a big fan of James Allen. He wrote As a Man Thinketh. He has a beautiful statement, not out of that book, but a different book. He says, a spoken sentence can turn the tide of history. So you may say something that will turn the tide of the history of that person. So I would say, anyone out there, communicate that you're concerned and keep going. And they may refuse. They may say, quit talking to me. They may get even belligerent or whatever, but at the same time, keep going. Because eventually someone got through to me, and that was great. And so are there resources out there? I mean, there's tons of resources now, which is great. End of the day, the most effective thing you can do is sit down with someone and communicate to them. Talk. Get vulnerable. And just say, I'm concerned about you, and I'm saying this because I love you and I care about you. And you may not want to hear this, but I'm here to tell you, I'm here to help you if you want it, but you're gonna die, or you're going to prison. I don't want to see that. Let's do something.
I think people need to be more bold in those circumstances, because you fear that, well, they're not going to like me, they're going to disrespect me, they're not going to list. Whatever the list is, you need to get over that.
Well, and I'm glad you bring this up, because there's a difference between being liked and respected. So I'd rather be, I can say this now, I'd rather be respected by one than liked by 100. Back in high school and college, and even early on in my marriage, I'd rather be liked. And don't get me wrong, it feels good to be liked.
Absolutely.
Right?
Everybody has that.
Who doesn't want to be liked? But I'd rather be respected. The person I'm confronting may not like me, but they'll respect me. But what's cool about respect is eventually they end up liking you anyway. So you get best of both worlds.
Right.
But the like comes later.
It's the obstacle you have to go through.
Exactly.
And we're going to talk about obstacles.
So
okay, so you get to this point where you just feel like your life is not even valuable anymore. And how do you get over that? What happens next?
So yeah, I had planned my taking my life. I knew exactly how I was going to do it. I'm on my way to go do it. And I won't go into all the details because that could be a whole episode by itself, honestly. But I reached out to a higher power. I'm just going to say that. I don't know what your listeners are, if they believe in God or a higher power. I respect what everyone believes. But to be honest with my higher power is God. And I reached out to a God that I didn't even believe in because I was so desperate. And I reached out and I got an answer. And God usually answers probably most of the time through another person. And it was a person that I played basketball with, Rich Saunders. Mm-hmm. His son is Richie Saunders, who plays for BYU right now. Mm-hmm. And it was him who came to me, who was prompted by God to save my life. And had I not gone through it, I wouldn't believe it myself. I wasn't raised religious. Matter of fact, I was raised to not believe in any of that stuff. So it was a last desperation of, okay, if you're there, if you're real, I need help. And I got an answer, and that turned the tide of my history. It didn't fix everything in the moment. There was other things that happened that needed to happen, but that was the beginning of, okay, maybe things are going to change.
So would you describe that as hope? You had hope?
Hope. Yeah. Sliver of hope. It was a very small sliver. Because again, I still have the same mindset. I'm still doing drugs. I'm still drinking every day. I'm still stealing and manipulating and lying and cheating.
Yeah.
Doing all that stuff. I mean, that was my behavior. Yes, it was a sliver of hope, but it was enough to where I could finally maybe see a small light in a dark room.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one of the things that you teach and talk about, which I think is great, is foundational, is getting rid of this negative self-talk.
Yeah.
And clearly you had to go through that process of I'm worthless to where you are today and to what you teach other people. How can you tell us that story? What were the steps that occurred to get you to this place?
Yeah, great question. Everyone listening to this, we all have a story we tell ourselves, good or bad, and it starts from the time we're born. We just start telling ourselves a story about ourselves, about our lives, about our world. Some of us go through some really horrific things, abuse, trauma, and that creates a narrative. Mm-hmm. And I've been through some really difficult times growing up, and it started creating this narrative. I used to think that I looked funny, that people hated me, that if I heard people laughing, they must be laughing at me because I look funny. That was the story. This started as early as like 6th, 7th grade. And it just got worse over time. And then, you throw in drugs and alcohol in the mix, and it just makes it 10 times worse. So really, I didn't have a drug or an alcohol problem. It was a thinking problem. That's what it was. I was poisoning myself with an irrational belief system. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. Mm. And that's what I do with my clients to this very day. Like, they'll come in as an alcoholic and drug addict, and I'll say, that's not your problem. The problem is the story you tell yourself about you.
Well, I have a question about that.
Sure.
Because one thing we were talking about today when you were talking to the group is this thing, a thinking problem. And when you're kids, you're in the moment, and you're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about the future. And this is where you find joy. You're in the moment. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I was when you were talking about it, I was thinking, yeah, when I was a kid, I thought I was Superman.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. But at some point we lose that. You lose the thing, like thinking you're Superman.
I'll change that. I don't think we lose it. We forget it. Mm-hmm. It's always there. We just need to be reminded. And so it's there. We just forget that it's there. And all of us, everyone in this room, we go through a period of forgetting. And eventually, sometimes we need someone to confront us, challenge us, and wake us up. Alan Watts has a beautiful quote. He's one of my mentors that I look up to, that I've studied. He's an old British philosopher. He's now passed away, but one of my favorite quotes, he says, when you're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. If you're not ready to wake up, you're going to stay pretending you're just a poor little me.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we need a wake-up call. And that's why when we go back to the question, what do we do when someone's struggling? Confront them.
Yeah.
because it may be the one wake-up call that they actually needed to hear that changes the course of their life. And so, I think we need wake-up calls throughout the rest of our lives all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Back on this theme of self-talk, if I said to you, and this is a quote from Seneca, a Stoic, you probably are familiar with it.
Yeah.
We suffer more in imagination than in reality.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Because our imagination is powerful. We do not know the difference between a real event or if we imagine it. Our brain and central nervous system does not know the difference, especially if we do it in such vivid detail. Olympians will call that synthetic experiencing, where they will visualize doing their event so perfectly that they actually believe they're doing it just by imagining it.
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever read the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
I have not.
Amazing book, old book. It's been around for a long, long time. In that, he cites this experiment they did with basketball players where they got a bunch of them together and they had them shoot at the beginning of the month, first of the month, 100 foul shots, and they took down their percentages, okay? Then they said, they broke them up into 3 groups. Group number 1, they said, for the next 30 days, we don't want you to touch a ball, no practicing, don't touch it. At the end of 30 days, come back, we'll retest you. Second group, we want you to practice 30 minutes every day for 30 days, come back and we'll retest you. Third group, we want you to just visualize for 30 minutes a day, shooting perfect foul shots in your mind for 30 minutes for 30 days, and then come back and we'll retest you.
Okay.
They brought them all back and they had them all shoot another 100 foul shots.
I'm going to take a guess.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay,
Let's
but
hear what you got.
I'm just going to guess based on what you're telling me. The group that didn't practice either stayed the same or slightly improved. They had some familiarity with the test. I'm going to say that.
Actually went down.
They went down. Okay.
They went down.
No practice.
No practice
No
at all.
thought. They went down.
Went
Okay.
down.
I would say the group that practiced 30 minutes a day improved.
Yep, absolutely.
A nice improvement.
Yep.
I'll say 10%. And just because you're telling me this, I'll say that the group that did, I don't know if I believe it, but the group that did the mental training, the visualization, what did you call it? Synthetic
experiencing.
The synthetic experiencing, that group improved the most.
You're close. They improved the exact same, not the exact, but really close to the group that actually practiced. And so just to prove how powerful our thinking and our imagination is. And so when we imagine something in such detail, our brain doesn't know the difference, good or bad. So that's why we got to be really careful what we're imagining. Because if it's something negative and bad, it creates all kinds of anxiety, frustration, depression, guilt, shame. I mean, the list goes on.
Do you know how many thousands of dollars I've spent on the game of golf?
I can imagine.
You know how many thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Well, and now I think you've just corrected all of my issues, because my thought when I'm standing over the ball, my thoughts are never like, I'm going to pipe this right down the middle of the fairway.
Yeah.
And are you saying to me that if I had that positive thought more often than not, I guess you all have to have a little athletic ability, but more often than not, you'll...
Yeah, you throw in the practice along with not just the thought, but actual visualizing.
And thought practice,
If you were to sit down, say, 15 minutes 4 times a week, visualizing, swinging perfectly, hitting perfect drives, perfect chip shots, no more than a 2-putt every time.
Yeah.
Right? And you visualizing that constantly, you would see improvement, because Olympians have proven it. They've got decades of this research from Olympians. Michael Phelps, best Olympian of all time, most decorated of all time. They'll say he's the best because he's the best at visualizing.
We play this game when we're golfing. It's called the Snake. It's a 3-putt game. Have you ever played this?
I've heard of it. I haven't played it.
Okay, so you get if you have a 3-putt, then you have to put $1 in the pot, and then at the end of the round, whoever has the last 3-putt has to pay everybody however many have been left out
Oh, yeah.
on the course. Okay, so now for 17 holes, I'm not really thinking about it because there's another hole.
Yeah.
Like, so I just two putt.
Yeah.
I mostly two putt. And if I three putt on hole number 3, who cares? Because someone's likely to three putt until 18. This has happened to me 2 times now. On hole 18, I three putt. All of a sudden, the three putt becomes the most, the thing I'm thinking about the most.
Okay, so it goes with another thing I got to share that you'll love this. You never want to motivate anyone or yourself with the reverse of an idea. So an example I'll give you is this. True story. There's a pitcher named Warren Spahn. He was the pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers back in the day.
Yeah.
Cy Young Award winner, amazing pitcher. True story. He's pitching in the World Series. Bases loaded. It's the 9th inning. He's pitching. I think they're up a run, and the bases are loaded. There's 2 outs, but up comes their home run hitter. So the manager of Milwaukee calls timeout, walks out to the pitcher's mound, and tells Warren Spahn, "Don't throw the ball high and outside. Don't throw it high and outside." This guy loves him high and outside. So anyway, he walks off, and as he's in his windup, he's throwing it, and in his mind, he's going, "Don't throw it high and outside. Don't throw it." What does he do? He throws it high and outside. The guy hits a grand slam. They lose the World Series. And they've done studies on this. And what the manager should have done is said, throw the ball low and inside. Throw it low and inside. He doesn't like him low and inside. So you never want to motivate yourself or anyone with the reverse of an idea, right?
Yes.
So, and again, it takes practice, and that's, and golf's probably the toughest sport in the world because again, it's all
up here.
And it's easy to get flustered and this and that. But yeah, I think if you incorporated some visualization techniques, you might see a huge improvement over the next maybe 6 months in your golf game.
I hope so. I keep losing money.
Right.
Isn't that motivating enough?
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, I want to transition into so you have this savior, you start down the path and you start figuring out like positive self-talk.
Right.
Not, I'm not a terrible person, or maybe that's not even how it goes. But
yeah.
So how did you then become an expert? You've been doing this for 35 years.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And it's clear that you have it's not a command of the material that you necessarily learned from a book or from a teacher, but you have real life experience. But what was the process? How did you become an expert in this so that you could teach it?
It's a great question. So how it started, so I had that experience that I mentioned earlier where I got an answer, but I'm still a mess. I'm still struggling. And I'm a bartender at this time, which is not a good idea when you're trying to quit drinking, right? And as a bartender, I'd get tips from the waiters and waitresses, because I'd make drinks for their customers. And then anyone sitting at the bar, I'd obviously make their drinks and I get tips from them as well. And back then people would tip with, 5, 10 and ones. And then a lot of times even quarters, nickels and dimes. Well, I'd keep all that change I would get that I'd make as a bartender in the cup holders of my car. And I'm about 8 months past this experience I had with God, honestly, but I'm still struggling. I'm still using every day. I'm still partying, still drinking, still a mess, still thinking of ending my life. I finally make it about 3 days clean during the week. I'm meeting with a mentor who's helped guiding me through this, by the way. And it's the mentor I mentioned, Rich. He's my mentor to this very day. And I'm leaving my neighborhood. I got about $40 worth of change in my cup holders of my car. And as I'm leaving the neighborhood, I see this little girl out of the corner of my eye selling lemonade. No big deal. Don't think any of that. I drive right on past. And then I have this impression come over me, turn around and give her all the money in your car. I thought, whoa, that'll be cool. I mean, this is 35 years ago. $40 in change is a lot of money. So I flip around, pull up, roll my window down, ask her how much. I think she said 25 cents. I said, I'll take one. She pours it, hands it to me. I set it on my dash and I tell this little girl, okay, cup your hands like this. And I just start scooping all this money into her hands. And it takes me like 10 scoops and she's throwing it on the table as fast as she can. She's getting emotional. I'm getting emotional. She's like, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And I'm like, hold on, I got more. And I just keep scooping, right? Well, then the last scoop she throws on the table, she takes off into her house. And I'm thinking she's going to go tell her parents some dude just gave me $1 million, right?
Right.
Well, as I pull away, I start to cry like I've never cried before in my entire life. I don't know if you've ever cried so hard that you feel like you're cleansing your soul. This was a soul cleansing cry. Like I had to pull my car over, put it in park. I put my face in my hands and I sob. And for the first time in my life, Greg, I feel like in that moment, I felt like I mattered. I loved who I was. I made a difference in this person's life that she'll never forget, I'm thinking, right? And it lit my soul on fire. One of my favorite quotes, actually I have it in my office. It's by Ferdinand Foch. It says, the most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. Dude, this lit my soul on fire. It was more powerful than any drug or any high that I've ever experienced in my life. And I thought, I want more of this. So on purpose, I could drive by the next Saturday, hoping she's out there selling lemon. Sure enough, she is. I pull up, she recognizes me, freaks out again. I give her $25. I do this every Saturday for the next 2.5 months. And every time I pull away, I just start crying my eyes out. And so I realize I want to help kids because I want this feeling. So I'm in my room one day. My last name's Sylvester, as we talked about earlier.
Yes.
My nickname in high school was Sly Dog.
You know, that's so funny. I don't mean to jump into your
It's
story
okay,
here
please. Yeah.
because I meant to ask you about nicknames. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be something else, like
Yeah.
T Money or something.
No.
T Pain.
No.
You
it
know,
was Sly
but
Dog.
no, Sly Dog.
Sly Dog.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Sly Dog. Your
Yep.
nickname in high school.
Nickname in high school.
Let's pick up the story.
So I'm in my room and I want to now be clean. I don't want to do drugs in it. I'm thinking like I want to change my life after seeing what this girl and how excited she was I just gave her some money that I earned ironically as a bartender at a
Isn't that
lemonade
crazy?
stand, right?
Yeah.
And I was writing down some ideas and I start drawing this stick figure dog. And all of a sudden I had this inspiration. It was like this dump of inspiration, revelation, if you will. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is. Sly Dog. I'm going to create an animated cartoon character named Sly Dog. And his motto is going to be, and it just came to me, drug free, that's me. So I have this idea. I go to a graphic designer. Can you create me this animated cartoon character called Sly Dog? It's got a dog's head and a human body, right? That's me, right? And so this guy creates this. I get a mascot. I create this program. All my just figuring things out. And I thought, I'm going to go to all the elementary schools in the state of Utah, and I'm going to share with these kids to stay off drugs, to help other people, and to believe in themselves. And I'm going to use this character as a way to get through to these kids. So I walk into a school one day, said, hey, I want to come do this to your students. And the principal said yes. And I started to freak out. I'm like, oh man, I really got to do this now. Because I was assuming she was going to say no.
No, get out of here.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, I tried. And who knows, maybe I would have given up.
Right.
I thought, okay, there we go. So I do this school, dude, and I am on fire. I didn't just do an assembly and leave. I was there all day for 5 days in one school. And I was going head to head with the DARE program, and I was crushing that program. Because by Wednesday, I'm a rock star to these kids. I'm signing autographs. I'm just calling Sly Dog. I probably signed, 350,000 autographs, Sly Dog autographs. I'm not kidding you. So I do this for the next 5 years, speaking to 350,000 kids. And then I have parents come up to me and say, hey, my son or daughter loves your program. Would you work with them one-on-one? They're really struggling. I'm like, yeah, sure. Never done it before. Doing it for free. Yeah, let's do it. So I start meeting with these kids and I realize I have a knack for this.
Oh, wow.
I've now done over 18,000 one-on-one coaching sessions since then.
That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
I have so many follow-ups for this. I don't know if I'm going to keep them all organized,
okay.
but let's try. One is, at this point, when you're Sly Dog, do you have any professional training?
Zero. Other than
it's just your life experience.
10 years of drug addiction.
Yeah.
10 years of beating myself up with a narrative of I'm no good, I'm the worst person on the planet. That was my training.
Okay, the lemonade stand, which is a great story. Did you ever think when you were offering all of your hard-earned money to this little girl running a lemonade stand, did you ever think, I would never want her to be like me?
Not really. It was just watching her expression and how I felt giving away.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a drug addict, alcoholic, you are the most selfish person on the planet. It's all about me. I'm going to rob you, steal from you, manipulate from you to get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, no, I actually made this girl's freaking decade.
Yeah.
Right. And I was just like, wow, that's, I have a client. Go ahead.
Well, and that gave you maybe a sense of purpose.
Yes. Purpose. We talked a little bit about that today in our thing, but purpose is huge. It's like, oh, I now know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I knew it.
Yeah.
Like I knew it in such a way. It was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I don't know how it's going to all play out, but that's what I'm going to do. And I had this client share this with me once. He said, I tried to find myself I could not see. I tried to find my God eluded me. I tried to find my brother. I found all three. I thought that's where it's at. And I learned that at the lemonade stand. One of the most powerful principles on planet Earth is if you want to be, give it away. So ironically, giving away all my money, I got my life back. And I never saw that coming.
Yeah.
I just listened to the impression, turn around and give her all the money in your car. Little did I know that was going to change my life forever.
Is that a principle that applies universally?
Yes, without fail. It's if I want to feel love today, I'm going to give away love and I'm going to get love twice back.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I know it sounds crazy because I'll have people come to me, Todd, I'm depressed, I'm this and that. And I go, I get it. Go help someone today and see if you don't feel something different. Not saying it fixes everything in the moment. I understand that. But if I want to be inspiring, I'm going to go inspire someone. I'll be twice as inspiring.
Yeah.
If I want to be strong, I'm going to help you become strong. And then I'll be twice as strong.
How many times do we have to go through that before we actually recognize it?
I know.
I mean, I have the same experience.
Sure.
But then for like myself and for a lot of people, there's too much self-interest, if that makes sense.
Sure.
There's too much self-interest.
Yep.
And you want to grab it all.
I call it the disease of me.
Yeah, it is.
It's me.
It really is a disease.
And as an addict alcoholic, I was so good at that. It was all about me. And I'm fortunate because I've seen the contrast of the disease of me and when I'm willing to give away to other people. Now, am I perfect at this? Not at all. But I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
But I still have to catch myself where a lot of times I'll find myself getting kind of selfish again. I'm like, oh, Todd, no, that's not good. You know better than that. And again, we're human and we got to course correct and that kind of thing. So, but that principle, man, if you want to be fill in the blank, give it away. You give to get.
Well, I have two thoughts on that. One is Sly Dog may have been inspired because, well, it probably was inspired.
I feel that it was.
But the dog, like, what other creature has better positive self-talk than a dog?
Yeah.
Like
unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
Always giving.
Yeah.
Even when my dogs are driving me crazy.
Right.
So
yeah.
Inspiration in your logo.
Yeah, right.
And then when did you transition? I mean, is Sly Dog still moving along or is that?
So I did that for 5 years and then I had to kind of take a break from it because then I got married and we had a kid coming on the way. And it was like, okay, because I wasn't making any money. I mean, I was making some money, but it all went back into, because I'd give kids t-shirts. Every kid got t-shirts. I mean, I made this so above and beyond. I had sponsors. I had Domino's Pizza, Pepsi Cola, American Grill, and Guardian State Bank. Those are my 4 main sponsors. And they would give me a little bit of money along with some product, right? But not enough to support me or a family or, I was living at home. So I was, anyway. So I put it on hold for a minute, but I was still doing it here and there, but I was doing speaking events now. So now people are asking me, hey, come share your story. Come share your story. And I was doing it at churches and I was doing it at schools. And then all of a sudden.
So no one's paying you.
No one's paying. In my head, I'm doing all for free until one day my mentor's like, dude, you got to get paid for your time. And I'm like, I don't care. I just love doing this. And he goes, I know, but if this is what you want to do for a living, you got to, anyway. So I eventually did that transition. But yeah, it started to morph from there. And then people would come up to me, hey, I'm struggling with anxiety. Can you help me with that? Absolutely. I've been there, done that. And I've been around treatment centers for 30 years as well. And I've learned, and I've got so many mentors who have taught me so many amazing things about therapy and what that looks like and how to handle these certain situations. And, I work at Wasatch Recovery currently, and I rub shoulders with some of the best therapists on the planet.
Yeah.
And they teach me so many amazing things, and I'm so grateful for that.
So when we talk about becoming an expert, did you ever go down the path of having sophisticated training into what you're doing, or did you rely on mentorship and being around the people who could inspire others, inspire yourself?
Yep, it was mentorship. I've heard a good mentor is worth four-year degree.
Isn't that the truth?
Right. This mentor, Rich, he took me under his wing and he taught me things I never would have learned in school. And also being an addict for 10 years, you can't learn that in a book, what I went through. So now I can relate with people. See, people will bought into me because they trusted me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very fortunate. I was really good at building trust with someone who was struggling. That was kind of my bread and butter, if you will. But yeah, again, I did. It doesn't mean I didn't study. Doesn't mean I didn't go learn. Didn't mean I didn't go to school. I did those things. But the mentorship was the one, man. That was what really took me to the top.
Yeah. So I think there's a connection here because it sounds like, we're working on ourselves as individuals, and we're talking about positive self-talk and image and being a giver. And if you want to receive, you start by giving.
Yeah.
And okay, so how does this translate into the corporate world?
Yeah.
How does becoming a better person outside of work make you a more productive person or a better peer to people you work with?
Great question. Because again, it's funny because I'm sharing the same message, whether it's in a business, a church, a school, young or old.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we talked a little bit about simplicity today, and I've learned if I can simplify the process, one of the best compliments I get from my clients is like, thank you for making it so simple. I didn't realize it was this simple. Overcoming addiction is actually really simple. So I walked into a room of former alcoholics and drug addicts who are in treatment for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't, some haven't done drugs in 40 days. And, and I walk in, I go, hey guys, good news. Guess what? You guys have all overcome addiction. Connect the dots. And they sit there and look at me like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I go, has anyone told you that? They're like, no. But connect the dots. You already did it. And they're like, I never thought of it like that. That simple little saying, like, connect that. Simplicity. We overcomplicate everything. And simplification, man, that's where the power is.
When you you said something today about simplifying. I'm going to get it butchered, so I'll let you talk about it. But it's when I think, Frank, I'm terrible at this. How should I respond to that? When you were talking about simplifying the thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as reframing it to something more and it sounds cheesy, right? Because people go, oh, really? That's what you do? It's funny how...
I didn't say that today.
I know, but I know how people are thinking, because they're like, it's so funny that we can beat ourselves up and we're totally cool with it. But yet, heaven forbid we say something nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me ask you, when you're giving a presentation to a group like that, and you say, this is how you just start by reframing it. How many people kind of, like the dog, they tilt their head like that? It can't be that simple.
Probably over half. I even today, I see them go, yeah, whatever. And here's the thing, we got to start somewhere. Because if our current narrative is, I'm terrible at this, okay, maybe you're not the best at it, and maybe you got to improve. We're not denying that. But you never want to motivate yourself with the reverse of an idea. So why don't you say something different? Like, you know what? I'm actually pretty good at this, but I've got some improvement to do. That's okay to say that.
I'm pretty good at this. I can be even better at this.
But I can be better if I'm willing to put in a little extra work, and maybe I'll go ask Frank and get some information, have him mentor me for a little bit, and get some, some good mentorship from you. I mean, that's where we're at. Instead of what we normally do is we just beat the crap out of ourselves. I suck. I'm never going to make it. I'm not as good as so-and-so, or, I'm never going to make it on this team. And
right.
So if you think that,
well, that's pretty sure.
Eventually, you're probably not going to make it. And I know that's the harsh reality. So we have to start somewhere, and we have to change the narrative. Yeah. Again, I say this all the time. The most powerful force in the human psyche is the story you tell yourself about yourself.
Yeah.
Ooh,
It's hard to tell that story sometimes.
it is. It is. But
So
we have to do something.
we
I
have
think.
to do something.
Well, I mean, you don't have to, but we should.
So when I get a chance to do that a little bit, and certainly not on your level, but one of the things I always
Yeah.
talk about when I talk to youth groups is the controllables, the things you can control, and you
Yeah.
should try to, and then you can't necessarily worry about all this other stuff. People
Right.
telling you you're terrible, and
Right.
but you can control things like your effort.
Yep.
And your attitude,
Yeah.
and your preparation. How does that mix in with the stuff, or does it even mix in with the stuff that you teach?
It for sure does. I mean, again, I am responsible for me.
Mm-hmm.
I used to blame my dad for my alcoholism. It was his fault. And I can give you 10 reasons why it was his fault. And you'd probably go, oh, okay, I see why you.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it wasn't until my mentor says, when are you going to stop blaming your dad and start taking responsibility for your life? Again, what can I control? I can't control my dad, but I can control me, right? My trauma wasn't my fault, but my responsibility to heal from it is my responsibility to do that. So it comes down to that. So, okay, if I want my life to be better, then that's on Todd. Now I can lean on you for a minute and ask for help, and you probably will give me help.
Sure.
Absolutely. I have no doubt that you would, but it still comes down to me executing it.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell me all these great things, and then I leave our meeting, let's say, if I do nothing with it, then how I can't expect for things to change.
Sure.
So you're right. I love that you say that. I'm in control of my attitude. I'm in control of my effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hard work. If you're hardworking, you can probably figure some things out.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
But anyway, I'm glad you bring that up.
We talked a lot about gratitude, and I'm already, see, I knew this was going to happen because we're already at like an hour. And so I have to let you go.
I know.
But we'll do this another time.
Please,
to follow up on all of these things.
Yeah.
But you talked about something that I think is really important. I don't do it very well. And I'm going to share something with you. I want you to tell me what you think about it.
Okay.
But tell me about gratitude.
Sure. Yeah. So what is Joe Dispenza calls it? Vitamin G.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vitamin G.
Yeah.
I think gratitude is the most powerful, potent stimulant on the planet. And here's the thing, and I learned this again from my mentor. Gratitude's great, and people say, do a gratitude list every day. And that's a good thing to do, right? But like if I say I'm grateful for you, I'm grateful for eHub, I am, but I'm not really feeling it. But if I say why I'm grateful, so if I say I'm grateful for eHub, and let me tell you why. Because they're an organization who's dedicated to making their people better. And they're allowing me to come in and be a part of that process.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that? Something I've been working on for my whole life, and they're allowing me to come in and be a part of this process.
Mm-hmm.
I am I'm even getting teary-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
I am actually feeling the gratitude now. So anyone listening, gratitude lists are important, but make sure you put why. So whatever's on that list, well, why? Why are you grateful for your wife? Why are you grateful for your kids? Why are you grateful for your addiction? Why are you grateful? Why? And when you do that, then you start to feel it. And when you feel grateful, you don't feel like blowing up your life, right? Your stress goes away, anxiety goes away. I mean, it is amazing what happens with gratitude. It truly gets rid of stress.
Yeah.
Be grateful that, okay, I got grateful that they moved the goalposts,
Yeah. You said that today, which was a great response.
I mean,
Because people will use that as an excuse. Like,
absolutely.
they move the goalposts. How am I supposed to
do?
do? Yeah, they keep moving. I can't
Be
get
grateful
there.
for it, because now you got to dig a little deeper.
Okay, I have two last questions for you.
Sure, you're good.
Okay, I'm going to get you out of here. I promise.
No, you're good.
But here's one thing that I think holds me back. This is the struggle. Okay, when you're practicing gratitude, and then I always have this thought creep in about somebody in circumstances where it would be extraordinarily difficult to be grateful. Like, people suffer. People have terrible things happen to them and surrounding them. So why am I so blessed not to be in those circumstances? And why isn't that other individual blessed enough to be in different circumstances? Maybe I'm making way too much of that, but it feels like that is a block.
Yeah, you're right. There's people who go through some pretty horrific things, and we look at that. And the truth is, life isn't fair. And you and I probably had a lot more privilege than someone else who maybe lives in Africa, who didn't have running water and who didn't have food on the table and slept on a dirt floor with no pillow, no blanket, But how does that person find happiness, right? Because it comes down to, again, like you said it, your thoughts. James Allen, who I really look up to, he says there's no power in the circumstance, just in the thoughts we put around it. Right?
Yep.
And there's story after story of people who have gone through horrific things.
I know.
Who are happy, they're positive, they're grateful for what they went through.
Viktor Frankl. Man's Search for Meaning is a perfect example.
Yeah, he found happiness and meaning in a death camp.
Right.
And it's fascinating. So again, and he even says in that book about the only thing he could control was his attitude. They could take away everything from him, but his ability to choose his own attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose his own way, they couldn't take that from him. So guess what? He used that to get through that horrific, hell that he went through. So you're right. People, some people go through some horrible things, but if they have someone that can mentor them and coach them, go, well, how did this happen for you then? Yes, this sucks, but how did it happen for you? And when they start listing off, well, okay, I can see this and I can see this. Then pretty soon they go, oh, I'm grateful that I went through that because look what I get. Like I took my first sip of alcohol when I was 11, opened up 10 years of addiction. Okay. Lost a basketball scholarship for it, but I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for the hell I went through. You want to know why? Because I'm sitting here talking to you right now.
Well, and okay, so this is the thing. Your soul is on fire. You've had all of these experiences and the lemonade stand.
Yes.
Some of us never have the lemonade stand.
Right.
And some of us don't have that catalyst of going through those unbelievably difficult times. Some of us just have kind of a nice life. So how does that individual set their soul on fire?
Well, that's a good point. You never know how strong you are until you're forced to bring that hidden strength forward. So you're right. If you have a laxed life and it's just a cushion for you, you may not have to. There's no reason to really maybe excel or push yourself or grow. But that in itself is a challenge, right?
Well, now you put it that way, and you're like, well, that seems so counter to why we're here.
It is. I think we're supposed to struggle, kind of like when I showed that video today of the butterfly coming out of the cocoon, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Like just it had to go through that struggle in order for it to fly. And it's the same with all of us. So if I'm not having those experiences, they're coming. I mean, I don't care. I think life in general can be really hard at times on all of us, right? And I do think not everyone might not have a lemonade stand moment, but I do believe that there's moments in our life that are trying to wake us up.
Yeah.
And if we're honest with ourselves, we'll notice them, and sometimes we ignore them. Like it was there, but I ignored it. Yeah, it was there. I keep ignoring it. I should probably do this or that. So I think we all have those moments. We just sometimes ignore them. And I was good at it too. I ignored plenty of things before that experience, but I was almost like I was ready to hear it finally.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I know it's different for all of us.
For sure. Well, listen, this is the tip of the iceberg. And if you're listening to this, you need to find Todd Sylvester. He's a guy that can help you change your life if you're ready, if you're willing to do all of the things. Where can people find you?
I have a website, toddinspires.com. They can go there. I have a podcast that you can find on all the podcast platforms. It's called a Belief Cast.
Yeah.
Just look that up, and it's on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can hit me up there and to see what I do, and I'd love to hear from you.
Well, I'm grateful for your story. I'm grateful for all of the things I learned today. It's been fantastic, and you and I are going to keep in touch. And
I'm looking forward to it.
And we're looking forward to you coming back to the Know Your Ship podcast.
I will. I'll definitely be on.
Todd Sylvester, there he is. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Know Your Ship podcast presented by eHub. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.